Hi guys, a very warm welcome and a very good evening to everyone who's joined us. There's still quite a few people waiting to come in at the moment, so just give everyone a fair chance. Reese, good evening. Nice to see you on board.
Hello.
How are you?
Oh, it's all right. It's not terrible.
Oh, well, there we go. That sounds good. Good enough for us. The weather's all right. It's not terrible.
Yeah,
On
it'll do.
board. Oh, great stuff. For everybody on board, we are recording this session, so if you don't want to be on the video, please mute your microphone and stop your video. If you really don't want your name to appear on here, please log out and we will send you a recording of the session afterwards. But that means you're not going to be able to participate in the question and answer session. So that will be a bit of a shame, to be honest with you. But it's really good to have everybody on here. We'll just give everyone a minute or so just to join us on here because I think a few people haven't been able to get in. I'm getting messages from people just saying they can't get in, so I'm trying to help everybody get in. As you can see, multitasking is not my mainstay, so I'm just trying my absolute best here, guys. So yes, indeed, a very warm welcome to everyone. We've got a really exciting session today. We've got a great speaker, a friend of mine. He has spoken on the webinar before, and he has also spoken at one of our live events back when we used to hold our live events in Jamie's coffee shop in Newport. So that was probably about 18 months, 2 years ago. So I'll have to dig out the video of that because we, at the same time, had a really good walk around in Newport.
The F-16 into a span of several months. Even
Hello, somebody's put the radio.
just hold out on the back. The language.
There we go. We've got that sorted. So yes, all good. Darren is a chartered quantity surveyor, a good friend of mine. We were just trying to work it out before the session. I thought it was about 20 years just to show my advancing years. Darren told me it's actually more than 25 years that we've known each other through family, friends. We're almost family connected, which is great. Darren was a fantastic builder, a master craftsman, and built his own house, which I was very impressed with in his 20s, which was quite a feat of engineering, quite a an accomplishment there. And he's since gone on to become qualified, did a university degree and various other qualifications to become a chartered quantity surveyor. Now, the exciting bit is we're all talking about commercial to residential conversions, and that's where Darren really excels because he's worked with some really big corporate companies and housing associations to turn not only commercial into residential, but also to build from the ground up as well, which is really important. So Darren is an absolute wealth of information. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce our guest speaker on tonight's fortnightly Zoom webinar meeting, Mr. Darren Archer. Good evening, Darren.
Good evening, Ben, and everyone. Thank you for the introductions, as ever, Ben. It's a pleasure to be here and see everyone join in for sharing and experiencing various different levels of knowledge that with everything it becomes part of lessons learned, and then hopefully can improve things for everyone within their role. Let me just share screen. We've done a short presentation to run through kind of project management principles, processes, hopefully give you a bit of an understanding of some of the positions I've been in and kind of some of the key complexities and things to look out for. So as we move on, as Ben mentioned, I've been in the industry coming up 30 years now, from developing and managing my own building company through a change in direction and career, which was not planned. Unfortunate change, an incident happened in London, and I've had to look at a different direction. But utilising knowledge and experience, went on to undertake a quantity surveying commercial management degree, plus multiple charterships in project management, utilising experiences, arbitration, legal side, along with memberships of the law societies as well. So capturing all levels of kind of contract management administration, just to get an appreciation from the cradle to grave management of projects. Working in multiple sectors, healthcare, new builds, refurbishments, residential, housing associations, regeneration of local areas, including Newport, Pilgwenley, and along with then higher education, and currently working on renewable projects within Newport. So all positive improvements within Wales. So just as we discussed, a quick snapshot of project management, really, and it's understanding the application process, methods and skills, all bringing together knowledge and experience to achieve the project objectives and deliverables. So as I'll go through the case studies as examples within, and varying sort of stages, the key principles from Chartered Institute of Building, along with others that are utilised for the benefit of project. So as we're talking through project life cycle stages, generally setting out the tone for projects from in inception all the way through to actual occupation. Varying kind of points and stages come from different methodologies within project management, but this one relates to CIOB, so Chartered Institute of Building, where initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, control, and closing out projects. So I thought we'd just give a quick understanding of each of the stages as a high level. As it describes there, initiation is the beginning of the project life cycle. So it's determining and understanding the vision from a client, what documents are required through business cases, any governments, any grants, approvals, and stakeholders. So components of this phase can include business cases, a clear project scope, so give everyone an understanding of what the key deliverables and objectives are. This will determine the resources required, key consultants, internal, external stakeholders, key milestones, which established within a program. And again, that brings everything that we discussed today. You can see the interface and so many independencies with each stage that are reliant on other elements to bring it together as a whole project. Nothing cost estimates, and key for any project, risks and any issues and any dependencies. So at each stage, it's critical to take your time setting each goal and objective clearly, which makes you understand and manage and try and control the project throughout its stages. And at this point, it's important not only for the project, but for all the teams to have their say on this key stage to understand the preceding stages and scope of works required. Moving into the planning phase. So again, this is following on from early inception and outlines and defines the reasoning for the project. So as we're talking through, it's key points to ask yourself is what we're trying to achieve, how we're going to do it, when, and when we know when we've done at each stage. And there's key part of this stage, there's documents to help support that, project management plans, project execution plans, scopes, work breakdown structures, resource and communications plan. And what's key as well in all of this is budget estimation. So very early estimates of the budgets, proposals, to sort of establish and set out the key objectives, what the next stage is going to follow, and whether your end goal and targets can be achieved from the outset. As design develops and with everything involved, things will change, but having the baseline core principle is what's key. Execution. This phase is quite vital parts within. So team development, any stakeholder engagement, setting clear quality assurance and processes and objectives. Again, there's there's so many variables with each of these. Just trying to appreciate everything in a short space of time, but they're all good points for making note of. Communication's key through each stage of how things are interpreted and transferred across the teams to make sure everyone is working towards the same goals and target objective. And again, this is looking at client management. Client, use the term loosely, can be across the board, from yourself as a client, key stakeholders, anyone related to the project can be deemed as that. So this is where the magic happens, and most of the budget is executed and allocated, as most of the project deliverables should be produced and taking this plan into starting to put it into an action. This time, communication is very important, of how, as a team, from a collaborative element, work together to achieve the next stages and deliver what the client's objective set out from the beginning. My experience, this generally changes as information is gathered, as design develops. There's always opportunity for value engineering, not necessarily as a cost exercise, which everyone believes it is. It's about achieving the most efficient value for money, viable product that is sustainable as well, and meets obviously all of the key requirements, legislation, and aspirations for everyone. So as part of reliable project management systems that are in place, these will help managing and identifying key dates and deliverables. So programs, setting out your execution plan will give each stage key information for all parties to be able to pick up the document and understand where and what the next stages are. So again, that everything feeds into each stage and helps develop into that. So from my experience, we have overarching projects and programs. We break it down into iterative projects, small activities and tasks. Generally, they can align then with you, depending on the contract, can align with activity schedules, which has been priced. So everyone, it all eventually comes together as one from, like they said, the inception through, but at each stage, everything evolves as this constantly delivers. Utilizing technology, that's become quite a significant part over the past recent years with the consultancies and document exchange and management, especially with COVID. So a lot of businesses now are using Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, etc., for digital data centers that the project delivery team can access. Everyone's up to date with the latest information, and I think that's a key point as well. So everyone is working on the most current design, and then that as a quite a simple notification, the whole team are updated and able to report and manage appropriately for internal, external stakeholders. As with everything at each stage, there's preceding stages, but they all take into account monitoring and controlling. So at each point and principle within a stage, control, monitor, and manage is keeping an eye on the whole process, making sure individual and team aspects all come together holistically. You need to stay as the project owner, client, stay vigilant and keep up to date with any tracking and reporting within the team. And I always look at, like, as a team, everyone raise key points, even if it's been previously discussed. It's about everyone understanding and laying almost everything on the table, so everyone is aware of key risks and identify any proposed issues as early as possible, and reinforce within the teams. If collectively we all understand what the issues and risks are, we can then, as a team, look to provide the most quickest solution. And not everything can be done without a time, cost, or quality impact. But collectively, it's all about working as a one team approach to get the best solution and deliver the best product at the end that exceeds expectation generally. So it's also other members of the project team as well, acting as quality control. Again, depending on the scale, appreciate there's there's so many levels of projects. Like we managed them from £1,000 up to 200 million plus. But the principle is still the same. It's just scalable. So having someone that understands the quality, setting all of this out from the key documents, contracts, is making sure all agreements, everyone's clear on what information they need to work towards. And having that is, again, communicate regular meetings and making sure everyone is up to date. Once the process and stages of going through, you're looking at closing out the project. So the final stages of the project is as key as the setting up. So making sure from the operational side, all of the information, legal side, the documents are approved, building control, planning, any conditions, everything is discharged appropriately to enable occupation. There's been a lot of projects that elements like that get overseen. The planning and building control then will not enable certification. For example, recently, fire safety and the Buildings Fire Safety Act is a big point that it throughout all of the stages, if the information has not been shared and managed appropriately with the fire brigade services local to the area, especially in England, then there's key stages, gateways 1, 2, and 3. If these are not achieved, you will not get planning permission, approval, and building certification, which can take several months following completion of a project. And there's been many a completed project that have had to stand dormant until they get the certification, because it's not legally viable to allow any occupation. So then there'll be no insurances in place. So that again is understanding, rushing through without control, management, and document control throughout. So at this point is making sure health and safety manuals, O&M manuals, occupation and management manuals are in place. So any equipment, all of your air conditioning, all of your utilities, all your key information to manage the asset moving forward is documented and all captured within a health and safety file, which shows any key risks, not especially on refurbishments. That can be very key of understanding the existing information. For example, in conservation areas, you might not be able to change some of the roofing, some of the windows. So that key and core information is remaining to tell you how to manage and monitor it moving forward. Not everything is as clean, as easy as having new builds. So especially with the current planning permissions and the requirement for housing, there's so many existing buildings that need to be replaced or look at change of use from, especially COVID times, the impact with businesses and commercial space. There's opportunity there to develop into residential. All of each aspect of this needs to be captured and managed accordingly. So moving into there is many methodologies for project management. This is across the board. I've managed to and been lucky to undertake each discipline and profession to establish almost a best fit and be able to utilize that on project specific basis. There isn't one tool, one guidance that is best suited. Sometimes amalgamation of information and experiences is where you can get that. The principle is setting the guidelines and the stages and the process that can be adapted according to client expectation, deliverables, and obviously project complexity. There's so much involved with capturing all of this information. And again, it's moving into lessons learned. And as you develop and build up portfolios, that's something you can build on, lessons learned, what went right, what didn't. And that's again across the team. So gathering that information is key for moving forward. So project management life cycle, it was developed within Project Managers Institute. And this is seen as one of the most efficient strategies delivering successful projects. where the 5 phases are challenging, but working through each phase as a team that helps complete anything effectively and provide hopefully the value for money for projects. And a key element within the initiation process, as with all, is setting the objectives at the beginning. They trying to fix and set in stone your key deliverable, but at each stage is being flexible as well, utilizing the best approach from the experienced consultants and professionals that you're building upon the team. As I mentioned, this particular guidance that we've run through today is through Code of Practice project management for the built environment, whereas this particular guidance is the latest that reflects challenging times, including change for principles, taken to previous project management principles, incorporating the digital change, best practices, and from the whole of the built environment, looking at how well-being, strategic changes and performance in health and safety, sustainable products, quality, production, and value for money. All of this gives good guidance and the overarching principle for helping assist project management. So just coming back onto some key themes and quality, some points I just picked out. So quality, addressing the need to clearly defining the standards that you expect. There are set standards for quality. Everyone has their own, and each individual project, again, requires certain things, whether it be from stakeholders, Welsh Government, applications, funding. There are key objectives and key performance indicators which can be incorporated into contracts. So there's legal obligations there as well. Sustainability, so the natural world, understanding, addressing air quality, climate change, all of the sustainable goals and targets that are part of Welsh Government well-being and future-proofing, capturing from new builds and part of planning applications and building regulations. A lot of this is understanding and all reflecting back for the Wellbeing and Future Generations Act, capturing all of those points. Value, again, relative and priorities, driver for value, including economic, social objectives, especially when seeking planning permission. The key pre-application, the documentation is understanding how that can be a benefit for not only the local economy, the residents building, you're providing homes for people in the area. So value, again, can be not only a monetary term. Productivity, innovation, looking at opportunities in MMC, again, brings in sustainable approaches. This is becoming a key element in part of construction to help deliver housing. But again, in certain scenarios, this is not a viable option. But it's as with everything in the key stages is being open to suggestions to see what best fits that particular project. Having good leadership, having and identifying within the team certain people skill sets within each. Again, monitoring well-being and what career opportunities can be there to support governance within your team and with other supporting teams as well. Collaboration, building strong relations across diverse network, and again across that future projects that you're looking at building sustainable projects moving forward is understanding people's benefits, collaborative, strong input from advice from others, and collectively with experience and knowledge you can start to generate and build products that are sustainable and quality, building a reputation for yourselves. Having that knowledge and sharing, again, looking at that side of things, but having data digitalization, the data intelligence, and having the rights to information access, looking at, obviously in the background you've got legislation to follow, GDPR and Data Protection Act. So there's everything is scalable within this, and one word can kind of capture quite a few varying elements. So it's having that appreciation across the board. And again, risk is not always seen as a bad thing. Risk, sometimes you need to take risk to develop, to look at opportunities for improving value, improving products. Sometimes with planning, you take the risk of going in for more rooms than potentially discussed. Sometimes that pays off if you can provide the evidence and have that clear strategy and advice from local area, local needs. Then it can all come into supporting taking things forward. So I thought I'd just touch base on quickly, high level, so planning permissions and general kind of the legal side of things and what key elements are. So within Wales, there's a development plan which is purpose led to providing the framework to establish primary and secondary legislation, enables the growth and looking forward for future planning in and around Wales. This sets out from the allocation of land, new developments, housing, employment requirements, and the need in particular areas, generally linking back to city centres. There's currently, as mentioned, quite a boom or an element of boom in certain cities now with build to rents. I was luckily working on some large scale buildings within Newport and Cardiff that are currently going through planning permission to demolish and actually build student accommodation. So within several cities in the UK, there's large population of student accommodation that are being built. And that's all part of the growth of the city and bringing in not only the residential sector, helping support educational centres and universities within the area. So again, with the Cardiff city centre regeneration strategy for the next 10, 20 years, there's planned scale developments within Cardiff for this reason, which bringing in students, bringing in residents, local networks, trams, which all feeds out into residential properties, student properties. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity there, especially with commercial buildings, of looking at change of use. As much as the structure's there, this obviously brings in other elements, including building regulations and change of the use policy, which there is opportunity there. There's a couple of points here from planning permission requirements actually relates to England, but in June 2018, Welsh Government consulting the change of classifications, which would give right for permitted development. So there's multiple classifications of commercial units. Some relate to change of use office to a different particular office product. To change it to residential obviously brings a lot of works in the background to that, to bringing it up to habitable standards. So as part of that, building regulations will follow and update accordingly. Bringing on to building regulations. So this is generally from the Building Act 1984. There's a set of approved documents that set out key points of giving information in regards to waste management, fire safety, electrical compliance, building structures. It's quite clearly it's set out in approved documents A, B, C, D, working their way through the list. Recently been updated, including the Building Safety Act now. So fire safety and management is one of the big points that's coming out of obviously regulation, which unfortunately from Grenfell, which is Building Safety Act. So Building Safety Act 2022 brings a lot of regulatory change to the industry. Identifies clear lines of accountability between all parties that are involved in managing, developing, and from an end use through to new builds, refurbishments. The UK Building Safety Act sets out key principles from 18 meters and above, higher risk buildings. They're working through that level, and it's for any building which has got 2 residential units above. That change now, 2023, is bringing in an amendment from 11 meters and above. In Wales, the policy is currently being drafted, but at any planning permission or approvals that are being issued and applied for currently, they're taking the stance of the Building Safety Act in the UK, looking at, they have 3 gateways. So mainly for new builds, you have key support from the fire brigade, looking at how the design for fire safety, fire management and escape is captured within all designs. When you think 2-3 floors above, it's how you're going to get out. It's not just a case of climbing out a window. So as with everything, it's taking time to come in. Wales' new regime and proposal from within the industry, discussions around that, they're not going to have a minimum, whereas the UK are 2 residential units and above. There's going to be stricter contingencies within Wales, so it's any residential, and they'll be looking at potentially 3 stories and above. When you think 3-story houses, so it doesn't even have to be blocks of flats or anything that's in line with that, which brings it back to, again, commercial units. Generally retail, especially in Newport and Cardiff, are 3-5-story highs. So as a minimum, they'll have to comply with Building Safety Act, and there's considerable obligations as the building owner to have competent people that are suitably qualified to oversee each stage of the design, each stage of the refurbishment, and there'll be key accountable inspectors now that will come and make sure every element of the design and construction is built in accordance with requirements, which ultimately comes at a cost, but you can't necessarily put a cost to saving lives. So the end goal, the difficulty is going to be having the appraisals and being able to make the projects viable. But as a long-term solution, it's better for everyone within the industry. In line with that change in Rent and Homes Act, there's been some key updates for the new law. So social private tenants have had to update, have contracts in place, manage it like appropriate landlords. So setting the tone to making sure everything is compliant, managed and controlled appropriately and legally. And just one particular point there, Section 92 of the Act sets out landlords' obligations for keeping dwellings in repair, especially with the law and the Act brought in about damp and mould regulations. So again, it's making sure, keeping on top of management, maintenance. That links back with control, having regular regimes, people visiting properties or utilising digital technology for monitoring, control. Any residents want to send in documentation, evidence, pictures, videos, you can clearly see and have track of then the condition of the building. Ultimately, keeping on top of that secures your long-term position in the building. So I just want to pick up a case study of one of the projects I was involved in a couple of years ago. So again, it was a refurbishment project. We had full planning permission approved for the conversion. Some of you may know this, at the bottom of Stow Hill, the old Argos building. So they're from a 130-year-old building to convert into residential units. As part of the planning process, this is actually within a conservation area, but this is not listed within that area. It literally stops a building or so away. but the general concept and principle is obviously maintain the facade. That was it. It wasn't a legislative requirement, but building relations with the council and the planning officers, aesthetically, we wanted to keep that look for the city, but obviously minor improvements where it needed. So in some instance, we looked to keep the roof tiling, but we could change that because of the condition, but we didn't have the obligations of the conservation area that we had to put Welsh slate back. So again, it was a good product, a good for the project of replacing the roof, because spending multiple millions of conversion this and the roof couldn't be changed would have been a detriment to the end use. So as part of this, there's actually a basement which previously had the snooker club. So we looked to change the office commercial units at the front with Argos, retained that, and then added a shop. So for the area to keep the commercial front from the aesthetics on the roadside. And we also converted and updated the basement. So there was going to be a new snooker hall in there as well. There, again, the start off with the planning appraisal, 36 flats. There was a couple of staircases and captured. This was actually 2021. So as the Safety Act was in the court of law for bringing in to change the act from the Fire Safety Regulatory Order 2005. But this was improving what we had, how we were going to do it, and obviously being a refurbishment project, until we'd explored all areas, we wasn't able to fully appreciate what could be achieved structurally until everything had been removed. So that was an exciting project, and it's currently handing over now with all the residents. So there's no parking with this, but as part of the planning permission, we'd incorporated space within the floor levels for storage areas, which can be used for site bicycles and things like that. So that was one of the positive elements as part of working with the planning department and the pre-application stage to look at what benefits we could bring to Newport, what's something local and what wasn't. So that brings me to the end of the presentation. Hopefully that gives you a bit of an oversight. Appreciate there's so much to go into on a project, but it gives a bit of an overarching view of how some projects can be developed and key points throughout the stages.
Awesome, Darren. That was a fantastic presentation. Thank you so much. Really, really good. I love the way you use the overarch a lot. So that's your surname, Archbuild.
Bringing it in.
Consultants, which is great. So I'm sure everybody who's on here now, we didn't have as many people as I thought we would, because I think a few people had trouble logging in. So I'm sure they'll enjoy watching the video of this. But I, as always, really enjoy listening to you, Darren, because your breadth of knowledge is absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed section 3 about executing. That's something that I need to hone up on myself. And I had a little chuckle to myself at section 5 when you mentioned the conservation area, because back in 2000 to 2001, my ex-father-in-law and I, we built a block of flats in the Gold Tops area of Newport. Now, the Gold Tops area is adjacent to the Civic Centre, which is obviously the council offices. And what was interesting there was Gold Tops is actually a conservation area. So when we put the plans in, we demolished a pair of semis, and we basically built a much bigger building. But it was in keeping with the general area. People who see it today can't believe that it's only 23, 24 years old. We built 12 flats. There was ground floor, 4 two-bedroom, first floor, 4 two-bedroom, second floor, 4 one-bedroom flats. We had a total of 12 flats, 8 two-bedroom and 4 one-bedroom flats. On the scope of works was obviously the windows and doors. As usual, for that era, the best methodology is UPVC. The council stopped us and said, no, you cannot put UPVC windows into these flats. Why not? Because it's a conservation area. Okay, shall we hit back on this? Directly opposite the flats, well, I say directly opposite, probably less than 50 yards away from the flats, was another council building, which used to be, it's now offices, but it was before the mayoral home in Newport got transferred to the registry office. It was actually Newport's registry office. So a council owned and operated building. They're telling me we had to have wooden frame windows in St. Cecilia Court. I'm arguing back with them and saying, well, in your building, not 50 yards away, in the very same conservation area, not only do you have UPVC windows, you've also taken the piss completely by having a massive UPVC conservatory, which is great for people going to weddings. But at the same time, how can you have UPVC as windows and this massive conservatory, yet you're saying to us we have to have wooden frame windows? So appreciate exactly what you said about the conservation area. Another point I wanted to pick up on was I really like the case studies. I love looking at the old buildings, like you were saying about the ex-Argos building, the 130-year-old building there on Stowe Hill. The snooker club underneath, for those of you young enough to remember it, showing my age now, was actually called Annabelle's Nightclub. And I'd love to say it was a great experience, but what the general gist of that was, what, excuse me, if you haven't noticed, I've got man flu. What they say, what goes on tour stays on tour. What goes on in Annabelle's ends up in the STD clinic. But anyway, that's another story entirely. But what a great presentation. Thank you so much, Darren, for your time this evening, and thank you for sharing your knowledge with everyone here. Has anyone got any questions at this point in time?
No questions. I'll just elaborate on something that the building safety control. So I'm in pain for I'm in bed, just to let everyone know. It's the closest Ben can get to my bed, so he's really pleased. Do you know Cumberland Shopping Centre? Everyone know Cumberland Shopping Centre?
Yes.
Every year that now gets surveyed, because I think it was about 2 years ago, a chunk of concrete fell off the ceiling, which was the panels in one of the stores, and now it gets surveyed every year at a cost, I think it's £52,000 a year just to have it surveyed every year for structural.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
And that all links back again with the RAC current present, and a lot of the buildings there are built concrete structures. So there's a lot of penetration there, and once water gets into it, all of the steel and the rebar rots away, rusts and collapses. So the strength just disappears. So again, a lot of that brings back to, just because it's there doesn't mean it's been done properly. And as soon as you bring things like that in, it's the management, maintenance. Again, that goes back to certain elements of repairs, refurbishment projects. Not everything is always as good as what you can see. Like we said, in particular with that Stowe Hill building, we had something similar. Some of the parapets didn't look much of an issue from the below. Once we got scaffolding up, it was prevalent that where water ingress had come, because the parapets were higher than the roof level for for feature, water had actually gone underneath it, and it wasn't actually sat on anything. So a good wind I've seen, especially down Corporation Road, some of the parapets there have slipped off and have come down onto the floor.
So just right before I digress slightly, Craig and Laura picked up keys for a refurbishment today, so I think that deserves a round of applause. Finally completed with a really crap solicitor.
You have
just
stolen my thunder.
Your fender?
Yeah, I dragged Craig and Laura on here. I just sent a text to Craig saying, get on the Zoom now. And it was because I wanted to share something. And yes, a massive round of applause, because I'm going to share this now with everybody. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
That's Craig.
Oh, I'm a little bit disappointed now, to be honest with you. I've got exactly the same picture. I don't feel special at all.
I bet I had it first, but yes. So I knew you're digressing slightly, but I was coming to that. I was going to share that with everyone here just to say a massive congratulations. Craig and Laura, are you online now? Can't see you.
Huh?
Are you online?
Yeah.
How does it feel? Your first project? Are they underwater? Can everyone hear what I'm hearing or not?
It wasn't very clear. No.
Yeah, I can't hear too much.
No.
That's a shame. We can't hear them. We can't hear them. Anyway, a massive congratulations to Craig and Laura. They've been with me now for probably about 6 months on the program, and this is their first project. It's a lovely, lovely property, ripe for refurbishment. It's an ideal flip project. Can we hear you better now, guys?
Can we do what?
Yes, I can hear you now. We couldn't hear you.
Oh.
before.
There we go. Yeah, we had it on a speaker. Better now, I think.
Yeah, much, much better. How does it feel?
Excellent. Just relieved now. Just it's been a bit of a bumpy road, hasn't it, getting there?
Yes, yeah. It
So
always is, but this is where the journey starts properly. This is where we go
Yeah.
off-road now. We're going off-road now.
yeah,
Craig's favourite. He loves off-road.
yeah, we've got the child labour already on the case.
Oh, that's brilliant. We've got chimneys,
Another one down there.
all sorts going on. That's wonderful.
So the little
Guys,
mini developers are on the case.
I'm so pleased for you both. And I'm so looking forward. And what we'll do, guys, is throughout our new platform, the school platform, we will share with you guys, obviously the onward progress of the refurbishments and what happens in this journey for Craig and Laura. So well done, guys. Again, clap.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thanks for
Thank you very
Edinburgh.
much. Cheers.
Really, really made up for you. Thanks, guys. Awesome, awesome. Has anyone else got any questions for Darren at this point in time?
I've got a question, if I can.
Bruce?
Commercial conversions, they seem really interesting, and it's something that I would love to get into at some point in my career, I suppose. But when you're looking at those larger conversions or even smaller conversions, how do you even start looking at pulling them together? Because there's so many constraints that you don't know what you don't know until it's too late, really. Is it a case of getting somebody like yourself or the individual specialists with you at that point, at the sort of point of conception?
I think with everything it's having the starting point, like you say, is establishing what information is there, and clearly what you're trying to do is appraise what you've got to be able to take it forward. So depending on the position you're at, whether you've got a legal pack or something similar, is almost appraising that, looking at the costing side, looking at the risks and opportunities. And at every stage is how you seek to mitigate that risk. Conversions of multiple buildings can bring a lot of complexities, subject to the freehold, the license, the agreements, Party Wall Act, all of that sort of legal side. And with everything, the more information you've got, the better it is. And it's gathering that information. You can get quite a bit from land registry and things like that, and understanding if any of the adjacent buildings are occupied, just to sort of build up a background of information and support to enable you to kind of appraise your position, what you want to target, and then understanding what the requirements would be. Again, with the law changing and the classifications from a 1 to a 2, there's minimal change. Again, depends on the height, brings in other legislations as well. So from the construction refurbishment side, that's quite straightforward. It's unraveling all of the interfaces with other properties, other commercial units, whether from an insurance perspective as well. A lot of insurances are struggling to confirm if there's any restaurants and things below. They won't allow habitable above without 2 or 3 layers of fireboarding and fireproofing, and it's that deep compartmentation of properties to secure your acquisition, but also then future proofing as well. So kind of quite a loose answer, but there's so many constraints, as you mentioned, to be able to drive it forward. But a lot of people think, like my experience, the quicker you get someone in to work and assist you with experience and looking at all of these risks is more valuable long term.
So really
and
get the team together, figure out who's actually going to be looking after it.
It's building someone core at the beginning. You don't need the full team, because there'll just be a drain on resource, time, and cost. It's bringing in kind of almost someone that's got the experience across. Good project managers have that information, and I've seen the complexity of how you achieve your end goal, and you can work it back, which is always the good thing from my perspective. Is I know what it's going to look like, and it's bringing that back to the beginning to actually go, right, well, if we go that direction, and every change in information brings a different outcome. So it's just understanding that, and then from that, having a network. If it's in Wales, it's having that support network around to bring in, as you need, a quick sketch of an architectural design to have a discussion with the council, and it's bringing everyone on the journey to help ultimately the end goal of achieving those rental units.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Just going to add about the right people, and this isn't a plug for me or us, to be honest with you, but this happened today. A client had been quoted, I think, what was it? I think it was like £21,000 for the year for the insurance for the building, unoccupied. It's a commercial building. It's got a commercial element to it. It's got communal space to it, like co-living space. It's quite a complex deal. Called us today, thought it was a bit expensive, and I put in contact with our insurance broker who does it. 16 grand, 5 grand saving for just making that phone call. No one wants to pay 16 grand for insurance. I know I don't, but it's all about the right people. So Darren is very key.
Awesome. Does anyone else have any questions for Darren at this point in time?
Thinking about commercial to residential conversions, I'm picturing sort of, much bigger scale, like it's going to be super expensive compared to just acquiring a flat or a house or something. Is it possible on a smaller budget, or on a budget of, do you spend on doing up a house, or are they larger buildings and are the costs generally higher?
Again, it's economies of scale in truth, really. And the more investment, the more the outcome, and there is a lot of principle behind. But again, there's varying stages and methods you could do. You could, if you had a large building, you could section it up and design it in a way that as you was developing, like normal developers would, you'd almost batch up your first houses to sell or rent, and then you'd utilize the funding and the profits and that from that to then reinvest, and you'd utilize that. But again, this is where from very early stages, if budgets are constrained, it's looking at the most efficient process, but that needs to be incorporated within the design. If you're looking at segregating a block, for example, you'll need to design it in that way to enable certification and applications, and again, fire safety, fire stopping that's integrated at each point. Like I was sort of saying, it's hard to have a one direction because there's so many variables that come into the deliverables as well. But the principle is everything is scalable. But again, that brings in other risks, but it depends on the project and the actual position of the property, unfortunately.
Can I ask a follow on for Jamie on that one as well?
Mhm.
What's the finance like for something not necessarily like Darren's project that he showed that was 30 or 40 flats, but something on the scale of 10, 15 flats? Is it straightforward to get that financing like you would any other deal, or does it become much, much more complicated with those larger?
Darren's already given you the answer, to be honest with you. And the answer is to do with the team. They look at the team, the experience. Like we do deals. I'll give an example of one that we got. It's in Cardiff. They're doing change of use. They're purchasing the building for I want to say 690 from memory. 690. They're putting a 30% deposit in, and then the lender's going to fund 100% of the works, but they do it in arrears. So you spend 100. I'll keep this really simple for the purpose of this Zoom. You spend 100 grand. They might send a QS or an asset manager out. They assess the work they've done. Then they give you the 100 grand for you to go on and do the next stage, and you get it in tranches. But it's understanding, again, as Darren said, that you need to understand cash flow, what's going to happen where in the build stage, because you don't want to be drawing down and getting a QS out or an asset manager paying £500 to £1,000 a time to draw down 20 grand. So you need to make sure the build and the management is quite well. But the bigger deals, for a client I've got on in London at the moment, they've got 3 commercial units. So basically what happened was they owned a corner shop. They bought their building. Next door come up on auction. They bought that, it just laid empty. Next door come up on auction, just come empty. So my son wants my attention. And now they're 73 and 75 years of age. We're looking at a multi-million-pound development. They've got no income. It's all based on the CV of the developer and who's doing it and how we're structuring it, because there's an age, but they've got no income. Understanding, have the developer done these type of projects? Do they want a project manager on? Because unfortunately, there's project managers out there that will rip you off as well.
It's risk profiling, isn't it, as well?
Yeah. So it's all about the team. It is, and I hate saying it. I really do hate saying it, because there's certain people out there that say, I'm looking to put my dream team together, or my and if anyone rings me, if you ever any of you ring me and say, I'm looking to put my dream team together or my hit team, I'm telling you, my responsibility, unfortunately, I'm not taking on any more clients, because they're the ones that are actually not going to go anywhere. But it's about building relationships, actually. It is about having the right team. I know that as long as I've been in property and finance, sometimes it's who you know, picking up the phone and having, do you know, I need your help on this. Can you help me? And that, and so it is about the team. So going back to the finance question, so is the team and a deal.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Thank you.
And from all perspective, just to add to that, is the risk. Like who ultimately takes the risk? Lenders won't want to take as much. And then that looks into sort of contract administration on the larger schemes, is how that's managed. Somewhere along the line, it's just proportionate to the level of information you've got. Mitigating that is seeking additional surveys and gathering the information that the risk profile sits against, which obviously ultimately is trying to reduce that element of risk that any contractor or any from yourselves then take on.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Any more questions for Darren at this point in time? I'm dying. I've got man flu. Jamie looks like he's dead at the moment. Are you okay, Jamie?
I'm in a lot of pain, but actually slightly off topic. It's a bit of an emotional moment. This is reminding me. And this one, it's really crap. What I'm about to tell you, just to be pre-warned. Okay. Laura's currently wearing one marigold glove, as you can see on her hand. Now, I'm actually, for most of you that know me, know I'm adopted. And when I was in care, I had this is a true story. I had a reoccurring dream that my dad come to take me out of care, and he always had one marigold glove in. And as he reached into the room, I'd wake up. And that's just reminded me of that dream that I haven't thought of in 26 years. So yeah, bit of a weird scenario. Bit emotional, if I'm honest. But yeah.
Jamie, very quick question. What medication are you taking for your illness at the moment?
I wish I was taking medication. I'm high on life with the love of my wife just over here nursing for me. Because I'm going to tell you now, guys, true love never ends.
Okay, so Jamie is on. Do you know what? Right? Going back to obviously where we all began, I reckon I'm looking at you now, and I'm thinking Goldie Hawn and Lionel Richie. You are the love child. You don't find that funny now, do you? He looks like Lionel Richie, doesn't he? At the moment, line is better. Anyway, I've got
I was on mute. Sorry.
Sorry.
I was on mute.
You're on mute, but it's great though, because I'm watching everyone on here now. We've had a fantastic presentation from Darren, as always, massively content rich. Looking at Craig and Laura, right? Every time it gets a bit heavy, like Laura pretends to be really interested in something, she comes forward to the screen like this as she gets out of working, right? And then Craig's then beating her, going, "Come on, get back to work. I've just beaten the kids. They're upstairs. They've already stripped all the wallpaper off the ceilings upstairs. Come on, get back to work." But no, it's great to see you guys, because this is one thing that I've always said. I'm sure Jamie will agree with me on this. When you are looking at a property project, timing is of the essence. So they picked up the keys this afternoon, and they are stripping that property out tonight at gone 8 o'clock. So guys, I salute you. Really, really good effort there. That's what we want to see. We want to see this property turned around. Time is money. Turned around, back on the market, back out to sale. That's what we've all got. Anyone got any more questions for Darren at the moment? I noticed that Natalie's turned her camera on, so I'm going to pick on Natalie now. How are you, Natalie? You okay?
Yes, I'm good, thank you. I was too busy eating my tea to have my camera on. I'm sorry. I was listening though.
That's fine. That's fine. Have you got any questions for Darren, for Jamie?
No, I don't think so. I caught the last half an hour, so I'll go back and watch the recording.
Yeah.
As well to catch the first bit. But yeah, really, really interesting about seeing.
You got a really big finger as well. It's so big on when you touch the screen then. Because you work in the housing sector as well, don't you, Natalie, if you don't mind saying?
I do. Nothing to do with planning, I have to say. I know everyone's got their gripes. But yeah, housing and homelessness for the council.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. It's been a wonderful session. Thanks to Lionel Richie. Hello. Is it us you're looking for, Jamie? Look at his face. He's not impressed, is he?
I mean, I am genuinely in a lot of pain. I'm actually in my bed now. Look, my elephant pillows that I'm not really. I've been bugging me since I've been here, because I was always told if the trunk's not up, it means bad luck. And I've just realised the trunk's not up on my duvet set.
No, that's absolutely massive. Do you know that's absolutely massive? Because I spent the first 5 years of my life in Hong Kong, and that is an Asian, not what you call fallacy. It's an Asian fortune thing about the elephants and the elephants' trunks.
To my eyes, I've got very Chinese eyes.
You're very, because when I was in Hong Kong, they have outside where my dad worked, which was Hong Kong Shanghai Bank, as it was called. Then it's called HSBC now. Obviously, they've shortened it. But they only used to have two branches. They had one branch on Central District in Hong Kong, and one branch in Shanghai in China, obviously. And when they rebuilt the building, they spent literally millions getting the position of the elephants outside the building correct, because it's all about good luck. The number 8, the building, the number 7, don't mention it. Number 13, not good. It's all about that. It's all about good luck. If you notice,
they build the skyscrapers in a certain way to to ensure the path the dragon coming off the hills to the ocean to drink was a good
Yeah.
luck in there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's massive. I mean, the alignment of these dragons outside, and I'm talking the new. And my dad absolutely loves it because he worked in the old colonial building in the 70s in Hong Kong. What they did was they took this building down brick by brick to build this skyscraper in, I think it was about 1986, 88, somewhere around there, which is dwarfed by all the other skyscrapers in Hong Kong now on the Central District. But when they were building that new skyscraper, the amount of money that they spent to get those elephants in the correct position was unbelievable. And what they did, they took the old building down brick by brick, and they rebuilt it in a much more industrial area, much cheaper area called New Territories. And they erected this colonial building that was my dad's, obviously his office there, brick by brick. And it's now a restaurant. So my dad, until recently, he's 78 now, 11, he used to go back to Hong Kong and he could book a table in this restaurant where his desk used to be. So he used to love doing that. Stories from the old past. But yeah. And the number 13 as well. That is one thing that I've always found incredible. The fear of the Chinese people for the number 13 is just unbelievable. In Cardiff recently, they've been building a skyscraper that's Chinese funded. And if you look at the concrete blocks, because it was a pin building with concrete blocks, if you look at the concrete blocks, it goes from 11 to 12 to blank block to 14. So what they're going to do is they're going to name floor 13. They may name it like, I don't know, like the garden floor or something like that, but they will not call it 13. Unbelievable. There we go. A little bit of knowledge there. Anyway, Lionel, how are you feeling? Are you
I'm
dancing
ready.
to see
I'm
it?
going to go see my son now and spend some time with my beautiful wife. Because she's
Anyone else
beautiful.
got any questions? I think we should stay on here and just see how long Craig and Laura are going to be at this strip out now. We want to see it. We'll be here at like 4 in the morning. We've done the whole room. Hello, Meg. How are you doing? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Very good. Very good to see you.
You can put the belt down now. I've said you're beautiful.
Oh, sheep. I've got man flu. Any more questions, guys, before we head off for the evening? No, we're all done. Thank you so much. A very special thank you to Darren Archer, Archbills, Quantity Surveyor, for coming on this evening and giving us that wonderful presentation. A very special thanks to Jamie and the team, and a very special thanks to everyone who's joined us here. If you're watching this on record, please feel free to get in touch with us. Look forward to seeing you all soon. Cheers, guys.
Have a good evening.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye, everyone.